Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Watang Yu, Sawadee Krap. Nice to see everyone this morning. Welcome to everyone online as well who's joining us. Today is actually the third day of a 5-day course that I'm teaching, and I realize some of you guys might just be here for the morning because we have regular classes on Wednesdays. You guys are welcome to stay as long or as short as you like. It's really up to you, but just so you know, I'm teaching a course now, and when we do that, the regular classes, people just come on in and join us if you'd like, because everything we do here is offered at no cost. You're welcome to learn with all of our books and videos and podcasts and classes and courses and retreats. You can even get personal guidance if you like at no cost. So we're just here to help you to learn the teachings of the Buddha and get to this enlightened mental state where the mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, there are no longer any anger, the sadness, the frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings are eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. So we start each class with some meditation in order to help you train your mind, because this is what's going to help you to get to this enlightened mental state along with other things. So I'm going to also be teaching after our meditation. Today's plan is I'm going to teach this first topic of Sorry about this. This is the meditation that we're going to be doing. This first topic of training the mind to acquire concentration, developing singleness of mind in a distracting world. This is a topic that oftentimes people are interested in, which is how do you get concentration and focus? So I'm going to teach you how to do that. After our mid-morning break, I'm going to teach you about what is the ego and how to eliminate it, because as long as you have ego, you're going to be putting yourself above people or below people. You're going to be judging other people and looking down on people. And this is going to cause difficulties in your relationships where people are just going to be pushing you away and being disinterested to be around you because your mind's thinking that you're either above people or below people. After our lunch break, we're going to come back in the afternoon and I'm going to teach a topic called Animal to Human, the evolution of our consciousness. This is where you're going to learn about how each one of us have had multiple lives in the past, and through this evolution of our consciousness, what you're doing on the path to enlightenment is becoming a better and better human being. Now, I realize right now, many of you might believe that you only have one life, but you can actually independently verify this cycle of rebirth that the Buddha taught, and this continuous rebirth over and over and over again. So I'm going to start introducing students to this afternoon. And this isn't something that people typically start with when they first start their journey to enlightenment, because none of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief, including the cycle of rebirth and the 5 realms of existence. These are all things that can be independently verified. But there's core central teachings that you normally start with, and then you gradually work your way through developing your life practice to train your mind. The Buddha discovered these 10 individual pollutions in the mind and how to uproot them and eliminate them out of the mind through training of the mind. And as you're doing this, you're going to see more peace, more joy coming into your mind. You're going to see that your mind becomes focused, concentrated, have clarity and deep memory, because your mind's no longer hindered with these pollutions. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile any longer. Your relationships can be at ease. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you're not even in a bad mood anymore, because the causes and conditions that produce that have been uprooted out of the mind. So the training of the mind is really important for that. And the thing that we do in this particular course is we start our class with loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that transforms your mind away from anger, hatred, and ill will, and all those lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even dislike. Oftentimes people think that those feelings are coming from other people. You might think that other people are causing you to hate them, or you might think that other people are annoying you, or you might think that it's because of other people that you dislike them. But this is actually coming from your own mind. Other people aren't causing these feelings for you. It's your mind craving and wanting and expecting things to be a certain way. The mind's expecting everybody to be a certain way. And if people meet your expectations and your criteria, then you may be happy and you may like them. But then when people don't do what you expect them to do and what you want them to do, then you're maybe angry at them or frustrated, or you dislike them or hate them. So you can actually transform your mind to the point where you're no longer hating other people. This is a reflection of what's going on in your own mind. mind. So you can transform this and get to the point where your mind's peaceful and joyful, and you can have love and kindness for all beings, realizing that we're all different. We all have different opinions, different views. We think differently, and that's part of the way the world is. But your mind might be craving permanence. You might want everybody to think the same way as you. And when they do, you might like them. But when people don't do things your way, you might dislike them. And part of what's going on here is the ego. And that's why we're going to be talking about that after our mid-morning break, because the ego is going to make you think you're right and everybody else is wrong. The way I do things is the right way. The way everyone else does things is the wrong way. And now you like the people who do things your way, and you dislike the people who don't do things your way. So you can transform all of this. And this meditation is part of that. But of course, it's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. You can't just instantly change and transform your mind. One meditation isn't going to make you a loving and kind person for the rest of your life. There's gradual training that you need to be doing over the course of multiple months and multiple years. So the way that we do this meditation is I'm going to start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. And you guys are welcome to join in on that chanting. We have chanting sheets over there on the cabinet. If you would like to get one, you're more than welcome to get one and chant along. For anybody who's joining online, you can get these chanting sheets on our website by going to buddhadailywisdom.com, click on free books, and if you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll be able to see the daily chanting sheet there for you. These chants are something that I suspect that the students of the Buddha created either during his life or after his death. We're going to be chanting in the Pali language, which is the historical language of the teachings of the Buddha. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students commit the teachings to memory. That every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally, because they didn't have, like we have books and audiobooks, videos, podcasts. We can capture the teachings very easily. But 2,500 years ago, they didn't have that. So they would recite his teachings orally every 2 weeks as a way to commit them to memory. So you can see from the origins of chanting that there isn't any rite or ritual or ceremony or worship. This isn't prayer or anything like that. When you're reciting these chants nowadays, we use it to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. But the Buddha used it as a way to help his students remember the teachings. If you look at the English translations of these chants, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, a lot of admiration, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself, because a Buddha wouldn't walk around and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, because this would be ego, this would be arrogance, this would be putting yourself above other people. And someone who's gotten to enlightenment, like a Buddha has, they wouldn't have gone around and said, here, chant these things to me. But if you learned how to move from anger and sadness and frustration and all those other discontent feelings to this mental state where your mind is completely peaceful and joyful permanently, where it's impossible for you to experience any discontent feelings, and this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, you might have a lot of appreciation and gratitude and respect for that person too. So that's where I suspect these chants actually came from, is his students either during his life or after his death. So I chant them as a way to ease into the meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing you some guidance on breathing mindfulness meditation. You'll hear me kind of instructing you and guiding you in the meditation while we're actually doing it. Then there's going to be a brief period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. And then I'm going to come back in with some more guidance for this loving kindness meditation. What you're going to hear me saying are things like, may I be peaceful. And when you hear that, you're repeating that in your mind, may I be peaceful. And you're doing this on the out breath. And then you're going to hear me say, may I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness. This is something you're repeating in your mind on the out breath. Then we're going to go to these wider and wider rings where we're going to do things like mom and dad. May mom and dad be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. We're going to keep on going until we get to all beings. And what's important is to understand that what you're doing here is you're essentially rewiring your mind. You're not invoking any kind of special powers to change mom. This isn't what this path is about. It's not about changing other people. It's about changing your mind so that now if you train your mind to be more loving and kind, when you're around mom and dad, you can be more loving and kind. Because you probably have certain relationships where you have difficulties. You might have some resentment or hostility or bitterness in those relationships. And you can transform transform your mind to be more loving and kind, so that now when you're around them, you can be more loving and kind with those individuals. Because if you just hold on to your anger and hatred, it's just harming yourself. Sometimes you hold on to a grudge or resentment because you think you're getting back at the other person, but what you're really doing is you're holding on to a hot coal and you're trying to burn somebody else. And this isn't actually possible, right? So you would like to be able to uproot this anger and hatred out of the mind through the meditation, but then in your day-to-day life, you're going to need to practice being loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And the Buddha teaches you how to do this. And I taught this on Monday, and some of you guys obviously weren't here, but you can learn that teaching if you like. It's a core central teaching of the Buddha, which is teaching you how to practice in a wise way around things like your intentions, your speech, and your actions. So after we do those affirmations where you're rewiring your mind to be more loving and kind, then we're going to go back to breathing mindfulness meditation. Then we're going to come out of that with some chanting. The way that I think about it is like a loving kindness sandwich. You've got loving kindness in the middle, and then the lettuce and tomato is like the breathing mindfulness meditation, and the bread holding it all together, that's the chanting. So you're going to hear me kind of doing that as I guide you in the meditation. In terms of your body position, there's actually 4 positions to meditate in. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And as part of your journey to enlightenment, you would learn these at different times because it's like a tool belt that you're going to need them at different times. But oftentimes students are learning in the seated position. So I'll give you a little bit of guidance on this to help you. And then as you journey on the path and you learn in other classes and courses and programs, you can learn these other positions. So oftentimes people like to learn in the seated position because it's very accessible to you, where they'll either be sitting on the floor or sitting in a chair. If someone's at home, you might be sitting in a wheelchair, on a bench or a sofa or anything like this. You can really sit however you're comfortable. There isn't just one way to sit. So what I'm sharing with you here in a moment is just recommendations for you to consider, because you need to find what's comfortable for you. Even if it's something that I'm not teaching, if it's comfortable for you, use it. So if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This is going to help to kind of soften your seat a bit. And then if you're deciding to bring your legs together in the cross leg position, you'd like to do that lightly, because if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat, which gets the hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So it allows your circulation to flow better. In terms of your hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. But again, it's not about everyone doing it the same way, because that's not actually possible. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees, their palms up. Some people like to rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. If you're in a chair or you're in a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair, same thing. You can sit however you're comfortable. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair with my legs crossed. So this is an option for you as well. And then with your hands and arms, the same thing. You can just put them wherever you like. With your upper body, it's helpful if it's erect with your sternum up and your shoulders back. This will help keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. And you would like the mind to be attentive and alert during this training. So by having the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation. It also helps you to breathe easily in through the nose and out through the nose. Because if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic and it'd be difficult to breathe. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive and uptight. So again, I'm going to ease us into the meditation with chanting, which you guys are welcome to join in on, and then I'll be back in with some guidance to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Sanghang namami. Namo rasa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Namo rasa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Namo rasa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Iti piso bhagava arahang sammasambuddho vicacaranang sammuno sakatoro kawitu anutero purisa Namasati satatawa manusanang Bhoto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in with the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out-breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May Mom and Dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, neighbors, and co-workers all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be free of discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Bhutang Mahakavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Arahasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arahasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arahasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa อิติปิโสมหะคะวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone. Welcome to everyone online as well. Glad to see everybody here this morning. This was loving kindness meditation. As I was mentioning, this is a meditation that transforms your mind to be more loving and kind. Because as long as you're putting out bitterness and harshness and hostility in your day-to-day relationships, that's what's going to come back to you. You can independently verify this. You can see in relationships where you're struggling and you're being resentful and bitter and harsh and hostile with animosity. That's what's coming back to you in those relationships. And sometimes we think the way to change those relationships is to change the other person. This is the way that you might be thinking. You might think that you need to change mom or dad or brothers or sisters or other people like this, maybe your life partner, your children. But really, the way to actually transform your relationships is to actually transform your own mind. When you transform your own mind and you start learning how to be more loving and kind in your day-to-day life, as you're putting that out, that's what's going to come back to you more and more. So you're going to need something like this, loving kindness meditation, to kind of like fill up the gas tank so that when you go out into the world, you can be more loving and kind with the people around you. You're going to also need a teaching called the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha, and I share that based on the original words of the Buddha, because you'll see the Eightfold Path in many different settings. People will share this in different settings, but most often people aren't teaching it based on the original words of the Buddha. So you're going to need to have the original words of the Buddha, which you guys have access to. In this book series that I share and all the other resources that I share, I teach based on the original words of the Buddha. And you can get this book series for free. You can go to our website and download it for free. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for our printing costs so that we can use those funds to go purchase additional books. Or you can order it on Amazon if your country has access to Amazon. Slowly but surely, you can learn how to be more loving and kind in your relationships, and this is more and more of what you'll see coming back to you. Because some of these relationships, it can be like a log jam where there's like anger and hatred and resentment and bitterness and hostility, and everything's kind of like all bound up like a log jam. And when you start taking these logs of resentment and anger and frustration out of these relationships, things can flow much better in your relationships. And you can't put the expectation on other people that they will do this, because everybody needs to make their own choices in life. But if you choose to do this for your life and you're transforming your mind, now as you're being more loving and kind in your relationships, you'll see that they start to slowly transform. So this is a meditation that is wise to do in the morning, where you can do this regularly each morning. And then there's other meditations that the Buddha taught too, like breathing mindfulness meditation and other things like that that I teach to help you guys learn those styles of meditations for specific purposes as well. But today was just about doing loving kindness meditation with you guys. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you guys this topic of how to train your mind to acquire concentration. Because in order to function well in the world, you're going to need concentration. In order to bring forth your love and your kindness in your day-to-day life, you're going to need concentration. In order to perform professionally, you're going to need concentration in your day-to-day work and your activities professionally. So cultivating a mind that has concentration is going to be performing more optimally. And the Buddha discovered these individual pollutions that are in the mind, that when you uproot them, the mind will function more optimally. So right now, if you're struggling with concentration or focus or clarity or memory or things like this, this can all change. that is not permanent. It's not biological. It's not that you're born to not have good memory. It's not that you're born to not have good concentration. In fact, you can actually develop this in your mind. You can actually train it. Just like you train a muscle to be nice and strong by going to the gym. And now when your friend's like, hey, can you help me move my sofa? You're like, sure, I can do that. I got some muscles to do that, right? It's the same kind of thing that if you exercise your mind regularly and you train it, then it'll be stronger and you'll have concentration and things of this nature. But if you're not currently exercising your mind on a daily basis, it's no wonder that you might lack concentration or focus or clarity or memory, because all of us were taught as we were growing up to clean this body as we were growing up. And that's probably something you do pretty regularly, even daily. You probably clean this body. But if you're not cleaning your mind every day, then you're not addressing this entire being. This being who you are, there's a physical body, but then there's a mind as well. This mind is non-physical. It's non-tangible. It's not the brain. That's not what the mind is. The mind is something completely different. And if you're cleaning the body, the physical structures of this body, but you're not cleaning the mind, you're not addressing this entire being. And if you went, say, a few days or a few weeks, maybe even a few months or years without cleaning this body, how uncomfortable would you be over the course of those several years of not cleaning this body? You'd probably be pretty uncomfortable. Well, if you've been going a period of time without cleaning this mind, it's no wonder that you're maybe uncomfortable. You may be having stress or anxiety or guilt or shame or fear or frustration or things like that. So everything the Buddha taught is about helping you train your mind and eradicate certain pollutions or eliminate certain pollutions out of your mind. And that's where the concentration and the focus and the clarity and the deep memory is coming from, by getting rid of these pollutions out of your mind so it can perform more optimally. So I'm going to share this topic with you, and I'm going to pause as we go so you guys can ask questions. Whether you're here or you're online, you're welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. As I pause for questions here at the temple, if you could use microphones here in the white bowl in the middle of the room, all you need to do is get a microphone, press the gray button. You're going to see lights come on, and you can just hold this up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't actually be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you, because you might have more than one question, or people around you might have a question, and you can share the microphone. And when you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'd be great, because then we won't get feedback through the speakers. And anybody who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or you can electronically raise your hand in Zoom and unmute your microphone, and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and throughout the live stream you can ask whatever questions that you like. So in order to acquire concentration, in order to train your mind to uproot these pollutions out of the mind, the first thing that you need to be able to do is you need to acquire wisdom. This is the challenge that the unenlightened mind is experiencing. There's certain wisdom about this world that you don't currently understand. If you experience anger, frustration, agitation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, any of these feelings, this is the mind struggling and having difficulties to live in a world that you don't currently understand. There's a lack of wisdom that the mind has. Just like with the natural law of gravity, when we were growing up, we didn't understand that natural law, and we struggled and we had difficulties. We fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we maybe broke open our knees and we started bleeding a bit. This is all because of our lack of wisdom of the natural law of gravity. And we struggled because we didn't understand the world that we lived in. Well, there's other natural laws besides the natural law of gravity that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. Just like the natural law of gravity affected us, whether you're aware of it or not, we experience certain results because of that lack of wisdom. And slowly but surely, we needed to gain wisdom of that natural law of gravity. We never believed in the natural law of gravity. We saw the truth for ourselves. We can actually see the natural law of gravity. We're not believing it at all. We know that it's 100% true because we see it. And then as we gained wisdom of this natural law, we started tying our shoes a bit tighter. We started walking on the surface of the sidewalk a bit more calmly, kind of looking at the sidewalk. We stopped being so giddy and bouncing around as a kid. And because of this wisdom that we gained of the natural law of gravity, we can now navigate the world peacefully. that we don't struggle with that natural law anymore. We can climb ladders, we can get on bicycles, motorbikes, we can get on airplanes and fly all over the world because we fully awoke to the wisdom of this natural law of gravity. Well, there's other natural laws that your mind is currently unaware of. Again, if you're experiencing anger, sadness, frustration, and all those other feelings, that's the indication to you that your mind is struggling and having difficulties in the world, because there's certain aspects about this world that you don't understand. Just like you struggled and had difficulties with the natural law of gravity, there are certain aspects of this world that your mind's not currently aware of. No matter what your profession is, no matter how long you've lived in this world, if you're experiencing those feelings, that's an indication to you that your mind's not yet fully awake, that there's a lack of wisdom. So in the teachings of the Buddha, you can acquire the wisdom of these natural laws. You learn them, examine them, investigate them, you reflect on them to independently verify them, and then you practice these teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life and transforming your mind. And then you will ultimately come to understand the truth. Slowly but surely, you will gain more and more wisdom about the world that you live in and how this mind that you have functions, so that now you can actively train it and you can experience improved results in your day-to-day life. So in order to get to concentration, you need to gain wisdom of these natural laws. One of the things that you need to gain wisdom about is these pollutions that are in the mind. The Buddha discovered 10 individual pollutions. He refers to them as the 10 fetters. A fetter during the lifetime of the Buddha, 2,500 years ago, was a shackle and a chain and a ball that they put around the ankle of a prisoner's leg, and they would keep this prisoner trapped in a certain area. Where today we put prisoners in jail cells or prison cells or things like this, where 2,500 years ago, they just attached a fetter to your ankle and they turned you out into a field, and it would keep you confined to this area. So when the Buddha discovers these pollutions in the mind, he calls them fetters because it's keeping the mind trapped in this unenlightened state where it keeps experiencing frustration and agitation and stress and anxiety and all these feelings over and over and over and over and over again. And it's when you eliminate these fetters out of your mind that the mind's now free. It's peaceful, it's joyful, it's been liberated of these pollutions, and that's where the peace and the joy is coming into the mind. So you're going to need to acquire wisdom about these natural laws through actively studying, investigating, and examining the teachings. There's a certain intellectual aspect to the teachings of the Buddha. You're not following anybody. You're not a devotee. You're not doing rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship. If you've been taught those things associated with the teachings of the Buddha, that's not the teachings of the Buddha. Those are things that people actually changed with his teachings. So you need to be able to study and examine and investigate. You need to learn intellectually, what did he actually teach about these natural laws. Then you reflect on those to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then these teachings that he shared and these techniques, you practice them. That's what we were just doing with the meditation. We were practicing the teachings. But there's other teachings besides meditation that you need to practice. You can't just meditate your way to enlightenment. You can't meditate your way to improved concentration. If it was easy as meditation, the Buddha would have just taught meditation and that's it. But we have 45 volumes of books that are this thick, that are the original teachings of the Buddha. And that's just what we have left after 2,500 years of history, is 45 books that are this thick. So he taught you many different things that are going to help improve the condition of your mind. So this wisdom is something that you need to cultivate actively through not believing, because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because someone convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. So you would like to actively learn, reflect, and practice, and that's what's going to lead to you understanding the wisdom and true reality. So that's the first thing. In order to get to concentration, is you're going to need to cultivate wisdom about these natural laws so you can fine-tune your mind and train your mind. Then you're going to need to practice meditation and generosity. That breathing mindfulness meditation that we were doing, where we were focused on the breath and the mind moves off the breath, we were cutting it off and letting it go and bringing the mind back to the breath. That meditation is not to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes that's what people think, that the goal is to eliminate your thoughts. So if you had a lot of thoughts during that meditation, that's very normal. Or you might have had a thought and you followed it for a period of time, and then you realize, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath. This is very normal. The goal of that breathing mindfulness meditation is to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. Because what your mind's doing in the unenlightened state is it's holding on. It wants things to be a certain way. And if you get things your way, you feel happy or excited. You get pleasant feelings. But when things don't go your way, you get angry or frustrated or sad. And the thing is that you live in an impermanent world. Things are constantly changing. They are temporary. Things can't always be your way. So as long as your mind is craving, desiring, longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way, your mind's pulling in all these different directions, you can't experience peace and joy permanently. So for example, if you get so excited and happy when it's sunny outside, that means when the sun is no longer there, you're going to be angry or frustrated or sad. Right? Because you're craving for that sun to be permanent, when in reality it is impermanent. Or if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, when your bank account balance goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated. The only thing that's happened is change. That's it. You can see that it's your own mind causing these feelings because there's no other person involved. It's just your bank account has changed. So if you crave this permanence of your bank account, when it changes, you're not going to like that change. You're not going to like that impermanence. So what your mind is doing in the unenlightened state with this craving, desire, attachment is it's pulling in all these different directions. I want more money. I want mom and dad to do this. I want my boss to do this. I want this car. I want this house. I want this boyfriend. I want this girlfriend. The mind's pulling in all these different directions. And this is one of the things that's hindering it from having concentration. So when you're training the mind to focus on the breath, you're training it to have singleness of mind and stay focused. And then when the mind moves off the breath, you're training it to let go. So now in day-to-day life, where you see your mind longing and yearning, and it's like, oh, I just wish it was sunny. I want to go outside and see the sun. You can cut that off and say, no. Sometimes it's going to be sunny. Sometimes it's going to be raining, and that's okay. Sometimes my bank account balance is going to be here, and sometimes it's going to be here, and that's okay. That's just impermanence, right? You can't have things that are permanent. It's not possible. All these things around you are impermanent. So the meditation is going to help train your mind to let go. If you can think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend that you had when you guys were together, you might have felt really great. You feel wonderful. You were so happy. You're having great conversations. You were going out to the movies, to dinner. You're going to the park. Maybe you were having sex and intimate contact. Everything was so wonderful. But over time, you guys broke up. You decided, I don't want to be with this person anymore, right? And then when you guys broke up, you might have been angry. You might have been sad or frustrated. You might have been missing this person. You might have been lonely and bored for a period of time. This is because the mind's holding on, craving permanence. It doesn't know how to let go. It hasn't been trained to let go. So it's holding on to this person and wanting them to be permanent. You can see it if you've had people close to you that have died, like grandma and grandpa, or mom or dad, or brothers and sisters. If you grieve during this time, you're not a bad person. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just that the mind was holding on. It was craving permanence. It doesn't understand the world is impermanent. That because grandma and grandpa were born, they had to die. It's impermanence. That's all it is. But when our mind holds on and craves permanence, then we will struggle when we experience impermanence. So another way to say this is that the mind does not like change. It does not like impermanence. So this breathing mindfulness meditation is training your mind to focus on the breath and gain concentration. And then when it moves off the breath, it's training it to let go. So that now in day-to-day life, you can train your mind to let go. So when that boyfriend or girlfriend, the relationship's over, you can let go. And you can feel comfortable and you can feel peaceful and joyful, not craving for this to be permanent. The generosity is also doing that. When you're practicing giving and sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources more than is strictly required without any expectation of anything in return, it's training your mind to let go. Because when you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind will hold on. It will be very selfish in some cases where you won't feel comfortable sharing with other people. It's my money, my clothes, my jewelry, my clothes, my phone, my house. Everything's mine. The mind isn't interested in sharing with others. So by you practicing generosity, it trains your mind to live open-handedly and to be able to share with other people. And this will help your mind to let go. So the Buddha teaches you each day to practice meditation and to practice generosity. And you need to practice this generosity without any expectation of anything in return, not even a thank you. Because if you're helping somebody go into a store and you're holding the door for them because you saw that they were behind you and you're practicing generosity and you're holding the door for them, if they walk through and they don't say thank you, you might be frustrated or angry, right? And now you might decide, I'm never holding the door for anybody, right? You might feel those painful feelings, but those painful feelings are coming from your own mind because you're standing there with an expectation, wanting everybody to say thank you. That's permanence. You live in an impermanent world. Not everybody's going to say thank you when they walk through this door. Maybe you say thank you when you see somebody holding the door for you, but not everybody is. Because some people, their mind is so caught up in what it is they're trying to get out of this store that they're not even thinking about it. They're not even seeing you stand there. They're just walking through the door. So if you're going to practice generosity, you need to do it without any expectation of anything in return, even a thank you. Just do it because you know that you're enhancing the quality of your mind and you're training your mind to let go. You're going to also need to develop this concentration to be able to eliminate the pollutions of the mind. When we talk about the detailed level of pollutions, we talk about them as the 10 fetters, like I was just introducing to you, these 10 individual pollutions. But when we talk about them from a high level, we refer to them as craving, anger, and ignorance, this 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots or the 3 fires. What craving is where the mind's longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way. And again, if you get things your way, you get pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if you don't get the things the way you want them to be, that's where your anger will arise, your frustration or agitation. And now you become unskillful potentially during that period of time where those painful feelings of anger is arising. You might attribute it to something external. You might think it's your mom or dad or brothers or sisters or other people around you that are causing you to be angry. And what you might do during this time is you might push people away, or you might push a situation away. You might have done this where you've pushed friends or family members out of your life. But you can see that this didn't solve the problem. Because if that was the true problem, when you push those people out of your life, you would be peaceful and joyful for the rest of your life. So that wasn't the cause of your anger. Because if that was the cause of your anger, when you push them out of your life, you would be peaceful and joyful for the rest of your life. The second thing that you might do when this anger is arising and you're falsely attributing it to something external is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile with them through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, almost feeling justified in the way that you're interacting with them. It's like an animal growling and roaring at another being, trying to fear them to do things your way. It's like, do things my way, right? And this doesn't work, right? Because these people experiencing your bitterness and harshness and hostility, they might choose to leave out of your life. You might have had broken relationships where you were bitter and harsh and hostile with people and they chose to leave out of your life. This is from the decisions that you made. You didn't understand that this anger was being caused by your own mind. And now you were being bitter and harsh and hostile with this person and it damaged the relationship. Even if you're still in a relationship together, it damaged the relationship. Or the third thing you might do when this anger is arising and you don't understand that it's craving, desire, attachment that's causing it, is you might put your expectations on people and you might try to control them or pressure them into doing things your way. In fact, people might be doing this stuff to you, right? You might be seeing that people are pushing you away, or they're being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they're putting their expectations on you and trying to control you because their mind's doing the same thing as yours. So when you understand that it's craving, desire, attachment, this longing, yearning, the mind wanting things to be a certain way, and that's what's causing this anger to arise, then you see all this unskillful conduct that you're involved in, and the Buddha teaches you how to clean that up. Where this craving and anger is coming from is it's coming from this third pollution, which oftentimes people refer to as ignorance. I refer to it as the unknowing of true reality. This word ignorance is something that people are translating from the words of the Buddha into English. But I can assure you that's not the appropriate word because ignorance is like a derogatory word. It's a diminishing word. I would never refer to anybody as ignorant, and neither would the Buddha. The Buddha, who was enlightened, he wouldn't have referred to people in a derogatory, degrading way. So a better way to think about this third one is like unknowing of true reality, or the misunderstanding or confusion or misperception, the lack of wisdom. Because the mind lacks wisdom, craving and anger continues to exist in the mind, that the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. This is the whole reason why this problem keeps going on in your mind over and over and over again, because the mind firmly believes, with its lack of wisdom, that other people are causing you to be angry. And now you'll go around the world pushing people away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, and putting your expectations on people. And as long as you're doing that, you can't live harmoniously with all people in the world. And you'll have broken relationship after broken relationship after broken relationship. And this will affect your concentration. Because of this pollution in your mind, you will lack concentration. Think about times when you were angry, when you were fierce and frustrated. You had difficulties thinking clearly, and you might have started making decisions that were unwise. And you might have made this situation that was a bad situation even worse, because your mind didn't have concentration to make wise decisions in that situation. So you would like to be able to make wise decisions, because that's what's going to produce wholesome results in your life. So as long as you allow this anger to come up in the mind, then you're going to sometimes lack concentration and have difficulties making those decisions. In fact, even when the craving is arising, when you're noticing craving coming up in your mind, you lack the ability to make wise decisions there too. So by eliminating this craving, anger, and ignorance, practicing singleness of mind and purifying the mind, you'll actually develop more concentration. So that's where, again, that eightfold path, that core central teaching of the Buddha is so important, because that's what's going to help you to eliminate these pollutions. It's important to understand that the mind can only do one thing at a time. Oftentimes people are taught to multitask, and this is one of the reasons why people lack concentration, is because they're trying to do multiple things at one time when your mind actually can't do that. You can only do one thing at a time. If you've been taught to multitask, what you're actually doing is you're doing one thing for 3 to 5 seconds, maybe 8 seconds, and then you're rapidly cycling to something else for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 seconds, and then you're rapidly cycling to something else. So if I'm talking on the phone with my mom, even though my mom's passed away now, but you guys understand the example. If I was talking on the phone to my mom, if I was watching TV and I was eating a sandwich, I'm not actually doing all three of those things at one time. My mind's talking to mom for a little bit, watching TV for a little bit, and then eating the sandwich for a little bit. And now this conversation that could have otherwise been 10, 15 minutes, it ends up being 45 minutes or an hour, right? And now when I get off the phone, I can't even remember the things that we talked about. Maybe I agreed to doing something for mom, and now you can't even remember because you're lacking concentration. Or you might have said some things that you regretted, and now you have to call mom back up in a few days and apologize, let her know that you were unwise for doing those things. Maybe you damaged your relationship. So you're not actually being more productive by attempting to do multiple things at one time, because you could have actually just focused on with concentration and had the conversation and been done in 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then you would have remembered the things that you talked about. So if you're going to work each day and you're kind of running around doing all these different things, trying to multitask, 3 seconds here, 10 seconds there, 8 seconds here, your mind's just kind of like a racehorse running around a racetrack. And if you've ever gone to a racetrack where horses run around the racetrack, when they go to the barn, they can't calm down. They can't relax. They're all hyped up. They're all stressed out, right? So this is the reason why you probably get home from work and you have difficulties to concentrate and you have difficulties to relax, because if you've been running around the track, when you go home, you have difficulties relaxing. You're stressed and you're having anxiety. So you would like to get to the point where you're not just running around. You're just doing one thing at a time. So if you're in your office and you're talking on the phone and somebody walks into your office and tries to interrupt your phone call, don't allow that to occur. Just maybe give them a little hand signal and continue to talk on the phone, or just completely ignore them altogether. Because if you put down the phone and you address this person, then what you're teaching your coworkers is, yeah, just barge into my office. I'm going to address you whenever you walk in. Or say you're typing out an email and someone barges into your office. If you just immediately stop every time somebody barges into your office, you're teaching all your coworkers, yeah, just barge into my office. It's okay, right? I'll stop what I'm doing. Like, that's not what you're interested in doing. So maybe you just continue to type out your thought of your email. Maybe it'll take another 30 seconds or a minute. And now your coworker's still standing there. And now you say, yes, can I help you? Right? And if you're on the phone for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes and that person decides to leave out of your office, so be it. That's their choice. And if what they have to talk to you about is so important, they'll come back later and they'll talk to you later. But if you try to do two things at one time, where you're typing your email and you're talking to this person, you're not going to be able to have focus and concentration. Your mind's running around the track, and now you're going to have difficulties relaxing when you go home. So I suggest that you just do one thing at a time. This is a practice of singleness of mind, where you're just doing one thing at a time, understanding that you're going to need gradual training to be able to do this. So if you were in a business meeting and your mind was wandering, maybe thinking about that trip that you're about to take to Thailand. Maybe you're in the business meeting and like 3 months from now, you're going to Thailand. You're like, man, I just can't wait to get to Thailand. Your boss is up there, yappity, 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 yap, and you just can't wait to get to Thailand. That's your mind that's not in the present moment. It's not practicing singleness of mind. So cut that off and let it go and bring the mind back to the business meeting. And if you're doing the breathing mindfulness meditation and the generosity, it'll make it easy for you to cut that off and let it go and bring the mind back to the whatever you're doing in the business meeting. Because if you're not handling your profession well, then you're not going to be able to continue to advance in your career. You would like to give your focus and concentration to whatever it is that you're handling. Or say you're washing dishes at home and your mind's starting to wander. Cut that off and let it go. Bring your mind back. Practice singleness of mind, because you might cut yourself with a knife, right? You like to just do one thing at a time. So the way that I think about this is, if you had a piece of wood and you had a steel rod and you grinded this back and forth, initially that steel rod's going to bounce around a lot because there's no groove in the wood yet. So that might be what your mind's doing right now. It might be bouncing around a whole lot. But if you do what I'm sharing with you, which is the meditation, the generosity, practicing singleness of mind, it's like bringing this steel rod back and forth, back and forth. Eventually, you're going to get a nice groove here where your mind's been focused and concentrated for extended periods of time. And when that steel rod bounces out, you know it and you bring it right back. But if you grind that steel rod back and forth enough on the piece of wood, eventually you're going to get a deeper and deeper groove, and the steel rod's not going to pop out. That's the way your mind works. If you focus enough over a consistent long-term period, you're training your mind with meditation, with generosity, and practicing singleness of mind in day-to-day life. Over time, you'll get this nice groove, and your mind will just always be focused and always be concentrated. So this is the way that you build concentration, is through your meditation, through generosity, through practicing singleness of mind, and then through observing the mind. You're going to need to observe the mind in your day-to-day life. That's where your meditation is coming in. Your meditation is helping you to build what's called mindfulness, or awareness of mind, so that now you can be aware of your mind. So when you're in that business meeting and you see your mind wandering, you can cut that off and let it go. Or if you're driving and you see your mind wandering, you can bring it back. Because now if you allow that to happen, you might get in a car accident. That's the unwholesome results of having not practiced singleness of mind. There's people who don't understand this about the mind that are actually dead right now because they didn't realize that you needed to do just one thing at a time, and they weren't observing the mind and they weren't practicing it. So if somebody was walking down the street, talking on the phone and walking down the street, they might have not even realized that they just walked across the street and whack, somebody hit them, right? And now they're dead. Right? Just from this simple thing that they didn't understand. Just do one thing at a time. If you're walking down the street, just walk down the street. If you're talking on the phone, talk on the phone, right? Instead of trying to do multiple things at one time where it's going to hinder your concentration, just do one thing at a time. So if you're eating, just eat. Sometimes people eat and watch YouTube videos and their mind's flipping back and forth, right? This isn't actually solving your boredom. The reason why your mind's bored is you have a craving, you have a desire, you have a longing or yearning for stimulation, and your mind wants that to be permanent. So the mind thinks that if I watch YouTube or something else, that now I'm going to get rid of that boredom, where in reality, you're just allowing this lack of concentration and this craving for stimulation to exist in the mind, and you haven't actually addressed the root problem, which is the mind longing and yearning. So you're going to need to observe the mind and see when it's longing and yearning, and you're going to need to restrain it and pull it back. So when you sit down at that restaurant all by yourself and you're just placed your order and you're just kind of sitting there, okay, well now you're just sitting there. You can observe the mind. And now if you're watching YouTube or you're on your phone, okay, that's what you're doing. But now when your food arrives, set that to the side and now just focus on eating. And now 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you're done eating. Now go back to your phone. Just do one thing at a time. Or say you're watching a YouTube video on your computer, and now say an email comes in. Pause your YouTube video, write out your email, your reply, and now go back to your YouTube video. But if you have your YouTube video playing in the background while you're typing out your email, your mind's having to flip back and forth between those, and it's really challenging, and it's going to lack concentration as this mind slowly gets degraded and eroded over time. Okay. I'm just going to actually go all the way through these before I open up the questions. That way you kind of know everything that I have to share here before you start asking questions. So it's helpful to do one thing at a time and interact with one person at a time. As I gave you guys the example of the business office, if you're in your office and people are coming in to interrupt what it is that you're doing, just do one thing at a time. Don't allow that person to barge in. My son actually just walked in. I usually use this example because there used to be times when I was in my room. I have a little desk in my room where I talk to students and help students. And he used to barge into my room and he would try to interrupt me like, Daddy, I got an emergency. And I knew it wasn't an emergency. So I would just keep on focusing on helping the student. And he would just sit there and you could see he was impatient. And then finally, after about a minute or two or three, I'd say, can you hold on for a moment? And they say, sure. And I say, yes. What do you need, son? He's like, the batteries in my remote control car ran out. I need new batteries. I was like, that's not an emergency, right? So to him, that was an emergency. So just because someone's barging into your office thinking that they have an emergency to them isn't necessarily an emergency to you. So understand that they can have craving, desire, attachment. So slowly but surely, what my son learned is that he can't barge into dad's office or dad's room and dad's just going to put down everything that he's doing and address him. Slowly but surely, after 10, 15 different times of him barging in and seeing that dad isn't going to stop what I'm doing, he slowly learned that that's not what he's going to do. And now he doesn't barge into my room anymore. And he knows that if the house is burning down, then he can come in and let me know. But other than that, those other things aren't an emergency. If his leg's broken or something like this, all right, come let me know. So he's slowly learned that, hey, an emergency to him isn't an emergency to me. And he knows that, hey, dad's doing something and I'm not just going to barge in. And I didn't have to sit down and teach him. I didn't have to say, now, son, understand, don't barge into dad's room. I don't want you to do this. I didn't do it that way because that's putting my expectations on him and trying to control him. Instead, I just changed my decisions. Instead of as soon as he walked in, I addressed him, right? I didn't do that. Instead, when he would barge in, I would just keep doing what I was doing, right? I would just ignore that he was standing there. And then over time, he realized, dad's not going to just stop what he's doing and talk to me. So then he slowly learned on his own that he wasn't going to barge in anymore. And he decided that on his own. So this is how you can affect the things that you're doing around you, is by making improved decisions for yourself. A well-trained mind is going to be relaxed and calm, yet alert and attentive. This is where the focus and concentration comes in. Oftentimes when we think relaxed and calm, we think kind of like a vegetative state where you're just kind of like laid back like this, like, I'm relaxed, so relaxed and calm. That's not the way the enlightened mind is. The mind in the enlightened mental state, it's calm and relaxed, but it's attentive and it's alert. It's crisp, right? Because those pollutions aren't in your mind anymore. So when you develop this relaxed and calm mind, but yet it's attentive and alert, you can have focus and concentration and clarity in your day-to-day life. The reason why concentration is so important is that it leads to wisdom, and you would like to make wise decisions because everything you experience in life is based on your decisions. If you make decisions wisely, you're going to experience wholesome results or wholesome karma. This is something that people oftentimes are trying to understand. You might have heard the word karma. In the Pali language, in the original teachings of the Buddha, it's referred to as karma. This means cause and effect, or action and result, the results of your decisions. It's not anything mystical or magical. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. It's about when you make a decision wisely, you will experience wholesome karma or wholesome results. And when you make decisions unwisely, you will experience unwholesome karma or unwholesome results. So when your mind's lacking concentration, you're not going to be able to bring forth your full wisdom in order to be able to make wise decisions to experience wholesome results. Oftentimes with the lack of wisdom, people will think that what you're experiencing is because of other people. You might think you have good luck or bad luck, or you might think there's destiny or fate, or you might think that there's some being like God or some entity named the universe that's controlling what you experience on a day-to-day basis. Or you might think it's other people that are causing you to experience certain things in life. But it's actually your decisions that are leading to any particular result. So when you're experiencing things either wholesome or unwholesome, it's coming from decisions that you make. And if you see this any other way, that means that you're stuck. Because if it's good luck or bad luck, the reason why you experience what you experience, or if it's destiny or fate, or if it's God or some entity called the universe, or if it's other people that are causing you to experience certain things, you're stuck because you can't change any of those things. And you know that that's not the truth, that you can actually improve your life. You can make different decisions and experience different results. So if there's anything about your life that you currently are experiencing that you would prefer not to occur, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But if it's good luck, bad luck, destiny or fate, God or some entity named the universe or other people, you can't change those things. So by cultivating wisdom and acquiring wisdom and then being able to apply it in your day-to-day life, that's what's going to improve the results that you experience. But when you lack concentration, you can't bring forth your wisdom to be able to actually make wise decisions and experience wholesome results. So when your mind is calm, you then have mindfulness, which is awareness of mind. When you have awareness of mind, you can be focused and concentrated. And when you can be focused and concentrated, then you can apply your wisdom in your day-to-day life. And now by making wise decisions, you will experience wholesome results. So this is why the Buddha is teaching you to eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing things like anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings. Because when your mind's experiencing those feelings, you're not calm. Your mind's unsteady. It's unstable. And now you're lacking mindfulness or awareness of mind. And then you're lacking concentration. And then you can't access your wisdom and make wise decisions to produce wholesome results in your life. So by you training your mind and getting to a point where the mind's relaxed and calm, yet attentive and alert, now you can access your wisdom, make wise decisions, and experience wholesome results. So for example, if someone called you up and said, hey, your mom's been in a terrible car accident. She's in the back of an ambulance being rushed to the hospital. Well, if your mind becomes all shaken up and unsteady, you're not going to make wise decisions. You're probably going to grab your car keys, rush across town, try to hurry up and get to the hospital. You might even get into a car accident yourself on the way to the hospital. And now you're in a hospital bed right next to mom. So how can you help mom, right? But if you understand how the mind works and you understand these natural laws, you know the last thing you're interested in doing is rushing across town, because that's not going to help anything, right? So instead, you can think to yourself, mom's in the best place she could be right now. She's in the back of an ambulance with emergency medical technicians, and she's about to arrive to a hospital that has sophisticated equipment that's going to be able to help her. Let me calmly make my way to the hospital so that when I show up, I can talk to the doctors and nurses, understand what it is that's going on here, and start making some decisions wisely that's going to help mom. So now you can just calmly make your way to the hospital, because rushing to the hospital doesn't help anybody. It's not going to change anything about mom's situation. That's not going to change the doctors or the nurses or the emergency medical technicians. Not going to change anything whatsoever. So if you can learn how to have equanimity, where you have calmness and composure in your mind, you will be able to have concentration, and you will be able to get to this point where you can access your wisdom and make wise decisions that can actually help mom in that situation. You would like to be able to develop the mind regularly through exercising the mind with developing your concentration and memory. You know, at one time, some of you guys are probably old enough to remember this. We used to actually have to remember phone numbers. You know, nowadays we don't have to remember phone numbers. We have them programmed into our phone, right? We used to have to remember certain things. So while these new electronic devices are excellent and they help us in many different ways, they've kind of taken away our regular ability to exercise our mind in our day-to-day life. So our mind has kind of slowly degraded over time because human beings aren't using their mind in the way that we used to in the past. So now that we use these electronic devices and they're really helpful for us and we would like to continue to use them, you're going to need to find ways to exercise your mind and exercise this memory. So when you're doing things like, say you have like an OTP, a one-time password that comes in on your text messages, and now you have to put it into a website in order to be able to get to the next part of the website. Well, you can try to remember that, right? You can look at the 6 digits, try to remember it, and now type it in. This is going to exercise your mind. Or something like chanting. That's why I do chanting, because it exercises your mind. You're going to need to remember those chants to be able to chant them regularly each day. And there's other things that you could be doing in your day-to-day life that's kind of exercising your mind and exercising your memory. So this is something that you could be doing on a regular basis, is exercising your mind and finding ways to do that. Because with modern technology and modern conveniences, it's kind of taken away that opportunity for the mind to be exercised. Because before, we used to remember people's phone numbers. I remember I used to have 10, 15, 20 different friends that I had all their phone numbers remembered in my mind, right? That's what we had to do. Or we would write them down on an address book, right? So you're going to need to find ways to exercise your mind. And then what I'm going to do here is just open up to questions, because I would like to see if you guys have any questions about what I shared or anything that you guys are struggling with or challenged with, anything that you see here that you might be having challenges with how to apply in your day-to-day life. You guys can ask any and all questions that you like. Remember, here we have the microphones, and online you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom, or you can raise your hand electronically in Zoom. So do you guys have any questions here that you guys would like to ask? No questions? Okay, let me check online here. See if we have any questions. Every class is a little bit different. Sometimes there's lots of questions. Sometimes there's no questions. That's impermanence, right? Okay. I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to pause here for a little break. It's basically 10:30, and what we usually do is take a nice 20-minute break, give you guys a chance to talk with each other, stretch your legs, use the bathroom, get a snack if you like. And when I come back, I'm going to share this topic with you about the ego. I'm going to help you guys understand what the ego is, and that it serves no purpose, and that you can actually eliminate this ego. But you first need to know what it is. I'm going to explain to you how it's causing difficulties in your life. Then I'm going to explain to you the techniques to actually eliminate it out of the mind so you can have more harmonious relationships. So I'm going to start back up at 10:50, giving you guys a nice 20-minute break. So thank you guys for your interest to learn the teachings of the Buddha, and we'll see you next time. Sawadee Krap.